Hey everyone, thanks so much for coming. Really excited to talk with you all today about our topic, new key management solutions, their pitfalls and benefits. So you can think of these things like smart contract wallets, MPC, if you've heard those terms. I'm Brian, I do developer relations at Phantom. We are not one of these new key management solutions, so I'm here to learn along with all of you today. We're a wallet that's coming from Solana, and you can think of us as, the term is like EOA, or externally owned account in Ethereum. But we have experts in a number of different approaches here for new key management solutions. So I want to call them down. First off, we have Raj Parekh of Portal. We have Omar Amsalam, who leads Web3 at Fireblocks.
Almost pronounced my name right, but yeah.
And we have Julian Nisset, a co-founder of Argent. Awesome. So guys, thanks so much for coming today. Really excited to learn from all of you. You guys are all pioneers in a space that's rapidly changing. There's a lot that's being proposed at various different levels of the Ethereum ecosystem as well that's impacting you guys we can get into today. But all of you are unique too in that you're building for different use cases. You know, consumers, businesses, developers, institutions. We kind of represent the whole gamut here. So I kind of want to open it up and just let you guys introduce yourselves. What are you building, and why did you choose your particular solution for your audience? Raj, let's start with you.
Awesome. Yeah, first off, thanks for having me. So I'm CEO of Portal. We're building out a infrastructure business that's helping consumer platforms today, like exchanges, fintechs, launch their own MPC wallet. I think we're starting to see this shift where users are now interested in controlling their assets, controlling their wallet, interacting with DeFi, dApps, et cetera. And so we're enabling large consumer platforms to do that. What was the second part of your question?
Why did you choose your solution, MPC, for you?
Yeah, so we actually explored smart contract wallets, MPC, and I think for us, it really wasn't like, let's pick and choose and let's go deeply philosophical with the one direction. It was more about what's right for our customers. And a lot of our customers are, have million-plus users. For them, deploying smart contracts on chains and generating each wallet is quite expensive when you have 1 million+ users. And so for us, we went down the MPC rabbit hole for that.
Awesome. Omer?
Yeah, hi. So thanks for having me. My name is Omer. I'm the head of Web3 at Fireblocks. So we're kind of the banner holders for MPC since we started. We started around 4.5 years ago. Very focused around MPC, institutional businesses, financial businesses. So again, we look at the entire spectrum on the business side, from enterprise down to kind of the longer tail of SMBs. Why MPC? It's hard for a company that kind of established around MPC and kind of invented MPC in this space to say why we did that. I think there was a large gap in terms of security and wallet security. So there was like a very tenacious cryptographical research around like what would be the best solution for the customers that we want to pursue. And there's a lot of things that are built into that. So, I agree with what Raj said. We also cater businesses that are generating millions and millions of wallets. So smart contract wallets wasn't the right choice there. But also there is kind of the blockchain agnostic part of MPC that you can create a private key that would serve across multiple chains. Fireblocks currently supports more than 40 chains currently, so you need kind of a solution that would do that without creating any overhead for our customers to actually interact with that specific chain. So there's a lot of benefits to that, and obviously there are a lot of security benefits and features that you can build off of that. So yeah, I guess that's it.
Awesome. We've heard from 2 MPC proponents. Let's hear the side of the story from you, Julian.
I'll be the contrarian then. It's always good to have some controversy on the panel. Very good. So I'm Julian, one of the co-founders at Argent. Argent, we started in 2017, and actually we were new to the ecosystem. And so as users of the ecosystem, we kind of felt that the experience made no sense, right? As a user, you need to install a wallet, you need to back up a seed phrase, you need to understand what gas is, transaction fees. We kind of, having these fresh eyes of new users, we really felt that this made no sense. And if we really wanted to onboard more users, and we are focused on normal users, so we are really B2C, we felt that we need to find a way to provide a much better user experience and basically to abstract and remove all these friction points. And so we really wanted to focus on two things. The first one was the seed phrase. I mean, if you look at the internet, we've spent 40 years trying to convince people like my mom to not write her password on a piece of paper. And now we're building an internet of value. And the first thing she's supposed to do is write that password on a piece of paper. But not once, 2 or 3 times to make sure that if something wrong happens, you still have a backup. That's completely insane. So we wanted to get rid of seed phrase. That was our objective number one. And the second thing is we wanted to get rid of gas fees or abstract gas for users, because we felt again that normal users would not understand that. And when we started in 2017, there was basically 2 blockchains, Bitcoin and Ethereum. We were building on Ethereum, so there was not the question of finding a solution that's compatible for 50 chains. It was really, we want to build that on Ethereum. What kind of tools do we have at our disposals? And these tools were a smart contract. So for us, it was pretty obvious. We can, actually abstract and remove this friction, remove seed phrase, abstract gas, using smart contract and using smart contract as user accounts. So we naturally started, building for smart contract wallets.
Love that. And yeah, those are some great use cases there, particularly around seed phrases, which we'll dive into here. So we heard kind of, I guess, the bull case for why you would choose this particular tool for your audience. But, with most technologies and tools, there are always some sort of trade-offs at some level. Maybe not particular audience, but I guess zooming out, if you were to look at, this particular solution that you chose, what would you say is the biggest trade-off of this solution? Maybe Julian, let's start with you.
Yeah, I think as you kind of hinted, one of the limitations of smart contract wallet, or I would say there's 2 limitations. One is clearly the multi-chain aspect, because of course, if you want to deploy a smart contract on 50 chains, that's not really efficient, and that can become complicated to manage. But again, for us, we don't see that too much as an issue, because we want to provide experience to users, and we believe users will come for applications. Users will not come to be on a specific chain. They will come because they come for an application. And so if you build on 1 or 2 chains and you cover 90% of the application, we believe that it's good enough. If you think about DeFi, there will be AMMs, there will be DEX with liquidity on all the chains. Maybe then it will aggregate on some, but you can have the same primitive of all the chains. So if you focus about application, we believe that we don't need to support 50 chains. It's sufficient to support 2 or 3 important chains, because then we can cover 90% of the use cases for our users. So that's, I would say, is one of the limitations of smart contract wallet, but we believe that it's not too much of a limitation. The second one is the aspect of cost. And as I mentioned, at Argent, we had the great idea of abstracting gas. And so for those who've been there long enough, you know that we used to subsidize transactions for our users. That was amazing when transactions were 10 cents, not so much when it was 50 cents to do a trade on Uniswap. So smart contract wallet, you have all these extra security, all this stuff that you build into your wallet, into your contract. But of course, that consumes compute, and so it makes transaction a little bit more expensive. On a chain like Ethereum Layer 1, clearly we realized after a couple of years that it was a dead end, and that's why we got excited about ZK rollups, because if you come back to a chain which scales and you can have cheap transaction, whether you're paying 5 cents or 7 cents and you have all these added features, people won't care. But so I would say 2 of the drawback or the negative side of smart contract wallet is the complexity of multi-chain and the cost, but we do believe that this is in no way a blocker, and specifically with the emergence of great layer 2s.
Awesome.
You're looking at me? Okay. So I'd say I think one of the trade-offs is not necessarily about the technology. MPC allows you to do a lot of things off-chain, so the cost isn't very high. But I think the complexity is more about, starting to operate in the setup. Where do you keep the shards? How is that installed and where, and how do you take care of it? I think it's a slightly more complex setup than being like entirely on-chain with with smart contract wallets. So you take, us at Fireblocks, we take it that very seriously, and there's a process of educating and integrating with the teams that we're onboarding in order to kind of get the most out of MPC wallets. So I'd say it's slightly more complex in terms of setup, but after that, it's pretty.
Would you say there's any additional like trust assumptions also with MPC? But smart contract wallets do have capability of like social recovery. Do you view it on that same level, or is there different aspects of trust assumptions?
So I think it depends very much on the vendor and how how obsessed he is with giving you actually the controls to do that, right? So you have to make sure that you can extract. So with our MPC solution, there's never like one private key in one place, unless we give some sort of a recovery procedure for a company to actually form for the first time the private key that associates with that MPC. So there is trust between the vendor and you as the customer. But you always have the measures to actually say, you know what, I'm taking my private keys and I'm going, right? So there's a balance, and if you don't give that, then yes, there's like a large dependency over that. But so you need to make sure that you're giving that option.
Great, and yeah, Raj, I saw you nodding along. Do you agree with that assessment? Is there anything else that you see?
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, I think to what you mentioned. I mean, if it depends on the architecture and the threshold that you set up for your MPC wallets. If you have 2 of 3 as an example, and you're trying to create retail wallets, you now have created a way for other parties to collude against the user and now take control of their assets. And so the architecture and just how it's designed is really, really important. And how far is it leaning towards the user versus in a different direction? And I think the last piece is security trade-offs, and that kind of goes into the DNA of the company and like who you're working with. Are they SOC 2 Type 2? Are they doing security audits? Are they doing penetration testing? Are they building the security DNA into their company? Because it is complex at the cryptography level, at the implementation level, and all those things are important too.
Awesome. And so, each of you has chosen this tool for your particular audience. And I'm wondering, for your audience, do you see this as the end state, like kind of as close to perfect as we could get for a key management solution? And if not, what else do we need, either at the protocol level or just additional technological innovations?
Yeah, I mean, I would say a couple things. One is I think gas subsidization is like not really a key management thing, but it's really just like a user experience thing. And I think ultimately what it comes down to is like how do you build the best user experience, even agnostic of the key management solution around it. And so I think all those things are definitely really important. I think as you get into more sophisticated features like batching transactions, using relayers, using proxy contracts, that's where things get a little bit more interesting also. There's definitely a lot of things that we could do at the MPC side to also leverage some of those benefits. So there's still, I think, a ton of work to do to make it even better. And I think the last piece is just I think continue to harp on security. Like at Portal, we take it as a responsibility to our users, and like we're designing implementations for assets, for money movement, for new use cases to pop up, and we take that seriously as well. So I think just going back to security as like that's never perfect, and it's an ongoing challenge also.
Julian, how about you for consumers?
Yeah, so I think we've demonstrated that we can build what we believe is the dream experience using smart contract wallet, and that's really what we had at the beginning when we were subsidized transaction. We had social recovery with Guardian, we had daily limit, we had all these on-chain logic when transaction was cheap that made it an amazing experience. The problem, I think, the obstacle that we are facing and that we were facing then and that we are still kind of facing is that we are building smart contract wallet on a chain which is designed for EOAs. And so we are second-class citizens. And what that means is that there's a few things that smart contract do differently than an EOA. And if dApps don't build their dApps for smart contract wallet, they don't support it, then the experience is broken for users. And so that's something that has impacted us, I would say, a lot. There's some example. For example, there's a few things that we couldn't do on OpenSea. Because to verify an off-chain signature, typically with an EOA, you can do an EC recover locally, and then you have the signature, and you can say, okay, this is a signature for that account, that's okay, and people use that for limit orders and so on. Smart contract cannot sign. So if you want to verify a signature, you need to actually ping the account contract and say, is this valid for you or not? It's very simple. There's a standard actually developed by Pedro from WalletConnect, EIP 1271, that does that. But most app developers, they're not aware of that. So I believe we can build a dream experience for consumer using smart contract wallet, but if we are on the chain with DOAs, there'll always be some friction. So that's why for the past year, we've been really pushing the narrative of account abstraction, because it's actually account abstraction is a way to generalize smart contract wallets, and we really believe that that's the future of any chain. And so we should make smart contract wallet first-class citizen on a chain. So for us, that's really the step that is missing. Conceptually, we can build a dream experience, but we need to have a chain that allows that experience to be native. So that's why, for example, we've been working with zk-Sync and Starknet, because they are building with native account abstraction, meaning smart contract wallet are the default. And then we believe that that's really the future.
And Omer, for institutions, do you think that your MPC setup is what they're looking for at the end of the day?
Yeah, I mean, up until now, definitely, right? We wouldn't have grown to the sizes that we've grown if the solution wasn't a good fit. I think it's always evolving, right? You need to stay, you need to stay updated. Obviously, up until now, with the L1s, we were mainly the bottleneck was the actual chain, but now when we come to like L2s and ZK rollups, where theoretically you can have millions of transactions per second, then how do you define security for that? How do you make sure that every transaction is validated and is signed on and enforces some sort of policy that is set by the user while not compromising anything from a throughput perspective? So I think there are challenges in this balance between kind of throughput and security. But it will be solved. So
I believe it will be solved as well. So when you guys just kind of take a step back and zoom out to the whole industry and the landscape of all the solutions that are out there, maybe also including EOAs, which right now are kind of the dominant, consumer choice, maybe just by way of pattern of the industry. Do you see it in the future, this being a winner-take-most market as far as solutions, or do you see multiple solutions coexisting for these particular use cases? What does that look like to you?
Yeah, I actually see a lot of it coexisting. I think a lot of the wallets and I think designs out there are sometimes purpose-built and use case specific also. Like if you're a DAO, for example, using Gnosis Safe with multi-sig for running your DAO treasury makes a ton of sense. They've done a great job. They have a huge track record of security with their contracts also. If you're looking at an enterprise customer that has millions of users at scale, something like MPC makes a ton more sense as well. So and also when it comes to smart contract wallets, I think for very specific use cases like Starknet or zk-Sync with account abstraction, I think all that will coexist as well. I think at the end of the day, it's less about like the solution and more about how we're solving the problem for our users and like what's like the best for them in that specific use case. And so I think we'll see all sorts of different designs and implementations, and it's really a matter of like coexisting together too.
Yep. I fully agree with that. I don't think there's one solution fits all for sure. It's about finding the right solution for your users, as you mentioned. And even ourselves at Argent, we look at MPC. And at some point, we're wondering, is it a better solution for our users? Our conclusion was not, but I don't see them as being contradictory. Again, I think it's great. Smart contract wallet enable a lot of flexibility because you can put logic and you can put custom logic. So that means you can already serve different needs for different users using smart contract wallet, but not everything needs to be on chain. And so I think combining smart contract wallet with MPC, for example, may be very useful for certain users. So I don't think it's about one or the other. It's about, again, combining stuff and finding what's best for the segment and the solution you want to provide.
So I'll try to be a little bit more philosophical about it. Like we all want kind of the first billion users to hit like blockchain. That means that up until now, we've only seen what, like 5%, 10% of like, the where we want to get like in the near future. So the use cases aren't like completely mapped out yet. What types of interactions would be on chain is not mapped out yet. I mean, we have like a very dominant group of people here in the audience and around the world that are kind of shifting and innovating, but we don't know yet, right? So it's hard to say. It's hard to say what would be the dominant one without us even knowing what's the kind of the primary use case in like 5 or 10 years from now. We can only guess, but
that is indeed hard to predict. And if you can predict that, props to you. So, you guys paint a great picture here of what all this unlocks. And particularly, all of you kind of paint a picture around added security. And I don't think there's anyone in the audience who disagrees, the pain points of having to manage a seed phrase. But that still is very much the dominant trend in this industry. What would you say is the biggest thing holding us back from getting rid of seed phrases?
Yeah, there feels like there's maybe two types of users here. There's maybe some users who actually still love seed phrases, and they're, I think self-custodial is like their mantra, and it works for them. So there might be a small segment of users that are really focused on that. And I think the rest of the folks, I think it's going to be how they coexist together. Is there a migration path to go from EOAs over to smart contract wallets or MPC? Is that through like other services? Is it outside of their Chrome extension anymore? So I think that path hasn't really been mapped out yet. I think at Portal, like what we're really focused on is like where does the distribution of consumers sit today? And we found that it starts at fintechs, exchanges, social media companies, and I think we like to believe that wallets will be ubiquitous in the future. And so how do we start to provide wallets where users are already today, where they have a really streamlined experience going into Web3 also? So I think they may coexist, they may have wallets laying around, but ultimately, like, how can we implement wallets where users already exist today too?
I think actually, to be a bit controversial, the majority of users are not using seed phrase. They're using centralized exchange. If you look at the numbers, the vast majority of users are not using self-custody. They're on, on Coinbase, they were on FTX, they're on Binance, even ourselves. I'm sure the majority of people in the audience have a centralized exchange account. So if you look at numbers, the majority of users that have crypto assets are not using even seed phrase, MPC, or smart contract wallet. So I do think there's a great challenge there because it's kind of a shame on us. We are building an ecosystem with some fundamental values, but our technology is not good enough, our UX is not good enough that we are pushing users to exactly the world that we want to escape. So I think there's a lot of work to do there, and so that's why, we believe smart contract wallet is a solution because we can get rid of seed phrase, but MPC is also a solution because you can get rid of seed phrase. So it's not even seed phrase or not seed, it's not, why are people using seed phrase and not going to what we are providing? It's first, why are users using centralized solution? And I think part of the answer for me is education. People go for the easiest, the low-hanging fruit, the easiest solution, the one they have available. I do think that with smart contract wallet, I wouldn't say we made some mistake, but we were probably too early, and that's something that we are trying to correct at Argent. We really had that idea of a perfect experience. We wanted to build some kind of a Revolut or Venmo on crypto in a time where people were all about speculation, making a lot of money quickly, and for that, using seed phrase, using bad technology is part of your risk. If you're here to make 100x, you're okay to actually using a technology which is not that good because it allows you to use that on every single app. So I think, particularly for smart contract wallet, our mistake probably was, or our issues was compatibility. We were not compatible with all the dApps, specifically the DeFi fringe protocol that provided the biggest return for degens. And at that point of the ecosystem, that's what people wanted. So I think we built a product that was a bit too early. I do think that this is slightly changing, but to your point, we still need to find good use cases. I hope that speculation is not the final use cases of blockchain. I hope there's much more that we can provide. And so as soon as we onboard more regular users that are here for something more than pure speculation, they will turn to actually the good solution that we are providing.
That's great. And Omer, I assume that most institutions you work with have to have controls in place, so maybe seed phrases aren't their go-to solution. But do you have additional color on that? Do you see that seed phrases continuing to exist in the space?
Yeah, it's a tough question. I think we can all agree that the UX around seed phrases is not that great. Although they some companies try to do that very seamlessly. So I think I agree. I agree that most, let's say, users that engage with digital assets do not have their own wallet, and they do that under centralized entities. And I think it's mostly to do, like you said, with just the UX of it, like how easy it is, how Web 2 it feels. So if we can get, and I believe that like MPC solutions and smart contract solution can get us to a place where it's as easy to have a Coinbase account as it is to have a wallet, that is, you can access it from anywhere. So once we get to that, then probably we'll see less and less seed phrases appear. Again, there is some comfort with owning your private key, I guess, for some people, and making sure that you have the seed phrase and no one can take that from you. We see it as a security vulnerability, but some don't. So
I think just to quickly add, but I mean, I think a lot of our target segment, they're starting to see that their users are, especially after some of the recent events, starting to lean away from using custodial accounts also. And for them, having something that's user controlled that they can manage themselves and have the ability to opt out is really, really important. And so we're actually starting to see like early glimpses of like this transition where I think a lot of folks that have traditionally built custodial products are now realizing they need to transition. I think custodial accounts are also very limited in terms of the use cases that it can support. It's just speculation and trading, which had a ton of product market fit previously. But as you go into past DeFi summer, NFTs, et cetera, that starts to change a bit more, and having something that's self-custodial becomes a lot more important too.
So Julian hit on this about the need to educate users, and I think that with all these solutions, there is a change. We're going to need some education, but one of the things that users might ask first is how secure is this solution? All these solutions are relatively new. Do you guys have any security concerns around the fact that maybe they haven't been fully battle tested?
I don't. I mean, we've been fully battle tested. Fireblocks has already facilitated something around like the $4 trillion worth of transactions on chain. And we've been battle tested for the past 4 years. So I don't lose sleep at night in terms of like how secure we are and how secure that solution is. Maybe I'm too vain.
I would just add that, the security is obviously very top of mind. I think MPC has obviously been proven for multiple years now that it's been robust and it's been effective, especially with its design as well. But I think it also just goes back to what I said earlier, is just having a company DNA around security. Fireblocks obviously has that. At Portal, we take that very seriously also. And so taking those measures, we're not skipping steps, because it is a responsibility to the users that you're ultimately serving, and making sure that you have proper processes, even engineering practices in place for it too.
Yeah, I agree with that. That's sometimes a concern that people have with smart contract wallets. But again, the example I like to say is I came to Denver using a plane that was mostly piloted by a computer. So I actually trusted a computer on my life. I'm okay to trust some code for my assets. This just proves that you can build robust and secure code. It's all about the process. So you need to be, you need to have security as top of your mind. You need to audit. You need to use all the tools that you can. But you can write secure smart contract. And again, the example is, us at Argent, we had more than $1 billion at some point. Social recovery, we've had users with like 15, 20 millions actually losing their phone. And they were perfectly fine because they knew social recovery and the guardian mechanism was working. Nosy Safe today is more than 10 billion or 15 billion. So again, I think security comes with battle testing. So as more time passes, you can have more confidence into what are you doing. Another thing that I like about smart contract or the smart contract approach is that everything is transparent because our code is open source. And again, for me, that contributes to security. Is if everybody can inspect your code and there are billions of dollars on it and nobody finds an issue, I think that's a good sign that the code is secure. So all this to say that yes, smart contract can have bugs, but if you have the right process and if you build your step consciously, you can build perfectly secure and robust smart contract. And I think, again, Nosy Safe and Argent have been demonstrating that for the past 4 years.
All great answers. So I want to switch gears a little bit and talk about a topic that's been very much a buzzword here, account abstraction. We've heard it mentioned a few times on this panel. Could each of you just give a quick summary of what account abstraction is as it pertains to your solution?
Yeah, I would say, it's obviously something that we've been talking a lot as a team. I think there's a lot of exciting opportunities when it comes to account abstraction. I think we've seen a lot of new innovation with like Starknet and some of these really specific chains around it where they have account abstraction baked into the protocol itself. and you start to introduce things like passkeys, social logins, really abstracting away keys altogether. Which I think is a really strong direction for user experience as well. So I think, frankly speaking, like very excited about account abstraction. I think there's like actually a lot of opportunities where, and there's a lot of, I think, ongoing discourse of how MPC and account abstraction are two like colliding and like they're against each other. I think we're of the opinion that, I think key management's done at the MPC layer, you have account management done at the on-chain layer, and there's likely an intersection where MPC can collide with contracts, whether it's something as simple as gas subsidization to like more sophisticated features like batching transactions, using more sophisticated logic around how signing takes place, because you're still signing with contracts also. So those are some things that we're actively like spending a lot of time talking about and thinking about. But overall, and even just talking to Yoav yesterday, the author of 4337, he mentioned it to us was that it's really focus on the problem you're solving, and that account abstraction, these are all fantastic tools, but again, it's about what are we solving for users and how can we build the best user experience too.
So I mean, account abstraction has been kind of a topic I've been pushing on for the at least past year. But I mean, at Argent, that's what we've been doing from the beginning. So first of all, for me, account abstraction is the ability to program the key functionalities of an account. And if you look, an account on the blockchain does basically 4 things. It validates the transaction to make sure that the account is willing to pay the fee. It executes the transaction, it pays the fee to the miner, and then it makes sure that transaction cannot be replayed. That's basically the 4 functionalities of an account. On Ethereum, all this is hard-coded and coupled to the signer. So that's why you need to protect this signer, this private key. That's why you have seed phrase and everything. So account abstraction is just the possibility to program these 4 functionalities, which is exactly what we've been doing at Argent since 2017. I mean, account abstraction is basically bringing smart contract wallet. I mean, if you have native account abstraction, it's bringing smart contract wallet to the protocol. You can have account abstraction at the application layer. That's what ERC 4337 is. I think it's a great design. It's a step in the right direction because it contributes to the education of not only users, but dApp developers, which I think is the priority number 1. But I still think that we need to go one step further and have it at the protocol level. And of course, for us, Argent, it's the dream, right? We've been building smart contract wallet, and now they become the default at the protocol level. We cannot wish for anything more, but I do think that it is really needed because, as I hinted earlier, for me, it's about saving self-custody. We need to find ways to improve the user experience of self-custody, otherwise people turn to centralized solution. And of course, I am biased. I think smart contract wallet or account abstraction is the only way to do that. I do think that MPC is a great complement, and so in the end, the perfect solution will be a combination of both. But we do need to have the possibility to program the functionalities of an account at the protocol level. So yeah, account abstraction, I'm all in.
And that's why you've chosen to build on Starknet?
Yeah, I mean, Starknet and ZK Sync. We wanted scaling, cheap transactions, so we wanted a roll-up that scaled. And of course, we want to have native account abstraction. So that's why we are bullish on ZK Sync and Starknet, because it provides the 2 features that we believe is needed to build great user experience.
So yeah, we heard that account abstraction, it should be thought of as a tool that it would fit your particular use case. We also heard that it could potentially complement MPC. How is Fireblocks thinking about account abstraction?
No, 100%. I mean, we're very... our focus has always been what our users, what our customers would want to see, right? So when we see some demand or some use cases that revolve around account abstraction, then obviously we'll opt in for that. And we're in close relationship with Yoav. Also, he's Israeli, so it's close by. So we're constantly monitoring it. We are validating it with the market to see what are the types of use cases that this can contribute to, and if that makes sense, then we're all in on it as well.
That's great. So all of these solutions sound very promising. I want to take a second as we start to wrap up here and just let you guys paint a picture. What does the world look like, let's say, 5 years from now, WalletCon 2028? What are we talking about in terms of key management solutions? Maybe what problems do you foresee us still having to work through? Maybe there's stuff at the protocol level, maybe it's the technology itself, but what does the world mostly look like 5 years from now from a key management solution perspective?
I'm definitely not a fortune teller, and I definitely can't predict the future, but I think the few things that just come to mind right away is I hope we're not talking about wallets and key management as much anymore, and we're actually just, it becomes so ubiquitous and so easy for users to even access any of these applications that all that's just like, that complexity's gone away altogether. I came from Visa, and today, everyone's used a Visa card to make a transaction, and I think maybe only 2% of people actually know how Visa works. I hope that's how most interactions are with most people as well, where they don't have to worry about the complexity and like going through a series of steps. They're just using it ubiquitously. And so I think that's the future that I imagine. I think in order to get there, security is like the biggest thing, and then UX as a combination to it. There's going to be some battle scars along the way where there's going to be hacks, exploits, and we're going to have a lot of lessons learned over the years. And I hope 5 years from now, like we've got security buttoned up and we got the UX like really, really solid also.
So I think, so I agree with Raj. I think that that we would be good if we didn't have to discuss these topics. But I also think that at the point where we are not discussing these topics, then maybe there's going to be like a lot of consolidation within the wallet market. I mean, the same way that you have your, kind of Apple Wallet and Google Wallet. I mean, if it's so easy and battle tested to actually integrate that, you don't need, you sign up to like 20 different applications, you have 20 different wallets. Like, it will probably consolidate in at a certain phase. I don't know if it's going to be like 5 years from now or 10 years from now. But once we get all of this figured out, then we probably see like, kind of the behemoths of the user owners kind of move into the blockchain space and try to get some of that at least.
Yeah, I think I fully agree with that. I think for me the future, and that's what we've always tried to work towards at Argent, is making the blockchain disappear. You shouldn't think about wallet. You shouldn't see that you're using the blockchain. I mean, HTTP, TCP, SSL and so on, these are all complex technologies. Today, people don't need to think about that. You want to buy something, you can go on an application, you click, and that's it. So I think we will have succeeded when there will be application running on the blockchain, but actually users won't need to know it's a blockchain. Of course, they will need to understand the value of blockchain because we do carry some important values. But I hope that in the future, people will no longer think in terms of chain, in terms of wallet, in terms of all this. It should be ubiquitous. The technology should be just there to serve use cases, but be transparent for users.
That's great. Julian, Omer, Raj, thank you so much for your time today. If we give them a round of applause, thank you for sharing your insights with us.